Non si sente il volume.
Hello, good morning, welcome. Sorry for the delay, we have some technical issues. Now I think that you can hear us. For every problem, please write in the chat. So, my name is Elisabetta Celi, and I've been working in the HR team in Trieste for 5 years. Today, I will be your guide and introduce you to our company through the words of some colleagues we will meet. You may be wondering why start working in U Blox after your studies. Because we strongly believe in these two ideas. So, before giving the floor to Paola Reina, HR Manager for Italy, I would like to ask you a few more seconds of attention about this opportunity. The link is in the chat, and I hope you have fun doing this change. Some webinar rules. And now we can start and meet our speakers. Thank you for attention.
Welcome, everybody. I was just wondering if my presentation is available and you can see it. And as I was introduced by my colleague, Elisabetta Celi, I'm the HR manager of the site of Sgonico. Here is a little collection of what you can find in LinkedIn, where Elisabetta, myself, and also Daniela are always available to collect your queries and to answer to questions. If you are interested, please contact us and be part of our group of engineers. We usually connect with some information about the company and so on. Introducing myself, I've been with this company since 2009 when we were acquired. We were a design company that U Blox acquired in 2009, as I said. So it's over 11 years in this company. I had the opportunity to grow in this company, becoming the HR manager as I am today. And I attended the university in Udine. I finished maybe at the time where many of you were still or not born or really little children. And after 25 years, I decided to go back to the university because I think it's never time to quit and there's always room for improvement. And I'm terminating, the graduation will be on the 6th of November, my master's studies in human resources management, again at the University of Udine. We are located in Trieste. Trieste is on the opposite side of Italy as Torino is, but it's a pleasant city on the sea. In the background of my picture, you can see the Alps and the castle facing the sea that are the symbols sorry, of our city. Going back to the company, we are a multinational company with 29 locations spread worldwide. If you see this picture, you'll see dots of different colors. The pinky ones, I don't know how to define it, are the sales offices we have spread around the world, with also our field application engineers working directly with our clients, and black dots are the R&D centers. Our company is divided and has some product centers. It means that we develop different types of technology, and there will be room for the explanation that will be held by my colleagues. If I'm presenting the company at a glance, these are the revenues of last year, about 400 millions of Swiss francs. We are a Swiss-based company. We have 3 core markets that are the industrial, the principal one, then the automotive, and less room left to the consumer one. The company, U Blox, was born in 1997 as a spin-off of the Polytechnic of Zurich, and 2 of the 3 founders are still leading the company. Are engineers, and that's a positive thing, because when you are mostly an R&D center, we do not have a direct production. It's important to have a base of management that understands the technical issues. The company grew in the time from the 80 people they were in 2009 in Zurich only. At the present, we are about 1,200 employees located in the worldwide in the sites you showed. I will not talk about the technical things. I'm pleased to introduce the sustainability report, and you can access our website. You'll get all the information you need about the company in different fields, also in training activities we do with the students, and also the comments of the students that were present worldwide in our offices. It's all in the site. For us, the sustainability is a base of our life and of our ideas. We want to give a real clear contribution to the environmental issues, and we have a chart that you can read and you can go through in our website about this sustainability development. In the terms of relationship among employees, not only also among the clients and our company, we also have a code of conduct that is the base of our daily activities. I mean, we respect and support each other and the human rights. We want to provide a positive work environment for all employees. We are always willing to listen to improvement possibilities in these terms. Our doors are always open. We tend to protect the environment. We promote and are very strict in health and safety in our company. Also, the ethical code in business is the base of our behavior. And we want also to be engaged with the society, with social corporate responsibility activities that you can also check on our website. Our company is weapon-free. It means that we do not sell anything to to clients that might use our products for military purposes. So if I'm giving you a glance of how is the history of Italy, because we are in Italy, and that's the country where we select and that we are presenting also in terms of HR at Torino, you can see the trend is a growing trend. This year we have hired 17 engineers. We mainly hire electronic, telecommunication, and software engineers. And what we here, there is a little indication about how is the ideal candidate. We look for sure good skills in terms of technical skills, but also communication skills, leadership, and taking ownership of the activities that a person must do in his or her activity. problem-solving orientation, team building and team working activities are essential for us. You can't work by yourself and alone. There's an absolute need of collaboration and flexibility. In a training point of view, also despite the COVID in 2020, we are proud to say that we continued with doing training activities for our employees on a webinar, as we are doing today, way not face-to-face, as mostly we were used to, but we could manage really to do it with a great effort, but also results also this year. U Blox is also multicultural team building activities. So here I'm showing a picture of when it was possible, and we hope that very soon it will be possible again to travel, to meet colleagues, U Blox colleagues from other countries, and also sharing a football match is important for this. As a final slide, I'd like to present, if you are Italian, you know Piero Angela, also if you are younger, I guess, and I hope. Piero Angela is 92 years old, and 2 days ago he received his honoris causa graduation at SISA, that's the second university in Trieste, in science communication. I was really impressed by his last sentence during the introduction of his master work. The advice for young people is go deep into things and look for excellence ever. And this is a message that we want to give you, and that is something we really believe in too. Thank you very much for your attention. I don't know who will be the next one. We are very pleased to be in Torino again, also in this virtual form and with some delays. And goodbye everybody, and use the chat if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola, for your speech. We pass the floor to Rado Susteršić now.
Okay, so good morning to everybody and welcome to this webinar about U Blox and U Blox family. I hope you can hear me loud and clear, and I hope you can see my screen. So let's start with, let's say, just the introduction. So my name is Rado Susteršić. I have basically 2 lives in U Blox because I started in 2008, and then I left U Blox in 2012, and then I rejoined back U Blox in 2016 with a different role. I'm now the product manager for the legacy technology, so this means 2G and 3G technologies, plus also the Cat-M1, so the new LPWA technologies that are now, let's say, growing, especially in, let's say, US and in EMEA. So I have more than 10 years of experience in IoT, in cellular and IoT connectivity, and I have, let's say, a master's degree in electronics engineering from the University of Trieste. So please, I would really like to have this, let's say, session interactive. So if you have any question, use the chat and I will try to, let's say, answer immediately. So starting from the IoT market. So what is the IoT market? The world is changing really fast, and it's being transformed by the power of the Internet of Things. The Internet has changed almost all aspects of our lives. And already in 2020, billions of things and devices are connected to the web, exchanging information with each other every day and every hour. This can be smart meters, smart devices, and these smart devices will increase the safety, security, and convenience of everything we do. And we will have a dedicated session on the security that will be presented by my colleague alle. So cities are becoming smarter, energy consumption is better controlled, pollution and waste are minimized, and traffic is better managed. So basically innovation is exploding because technologies and development tools are simpler to use and more accessible than they used to be. In addition, they are available to diverse new groups of inventors with different perspectives, needs, and ideas. Weather station, driving monitors, wall-mounted IoT modems, and rewarding let's say, messages for courteous drivers. So really, world is changing, and we see also that a lot of new startups are, let's say, growing very fast with new ideas and with new challenges. So how is U Blox addressing, let's say, these new markets? So we are enabling the Internet of Things, and we have basically three major, let's say, markets. We divide our markets into industrial applications, and this is covering the fleet management, the asset tracking, the usage-based insurances. So this means the famous black boxes that your insurances would like to sell you, the payments, the metering, and the precision timing. Then the other big market portion for us is automotive applications. And those are the applications that are enabling navigations and entertainment in the cars, automatic assistance in the event of accidents, and help in case of breakdowns, or even to recover stolen vehicles. Last but not least, the last, let's say, part of the market for us is the consumer applications. And so our products are used for wearable devices, for toys, watches, child and pet locators, to golfing equipment, and so far and so on. I can give you an example. For example, if you're wearing, and this is kind of a confidential information, so please keep it for yourself, but if you're wearing, for example, a Fitbit watch, you have inside a U Blox GNSS. The same as if you're driving a Volkswagen. In most of the Volkswagen cars, we have our GNSS chipset inside the cars. So the future really lies in combining information from multiple sources. So cellular, short range, and positioning are powerful together. And this is our belief. So as you can see, this is also our strength. So we have a combination of really all those three technologies. So positioning, cellular, and short range. And in all of those three technologies, we are offering, let's say, different possibilities. So we are offering the chipset and the modules. This depends, of course, on the needs of the customers, especially in cellular. For, let's say, integrating a cellular chipset, you need to be really skilled. So in this case, maybe it's better to use, let's say, cellular modules, because in this way, the time to market is fastest, and also the cost, the R&D cost on your side, on the customer side, are lower. And just a note, we as U Blox are a fabless company. What does it mean? So we are not, let's say, owning any fab. We are designing our, let's say, chipset and modules, and then we have partners who are producing our modules and chipsets. One of the partners, the main partner for modules, is Flex in Austria, and so we are really one of the few, let's say, players in the IoT market that still has the production in Europe, because Austria, Flextronics, is in the middle of Europe, and this is a reason why we are still keeping the production in Europe, because it's the same time zone, and Flextronics is really 3.5 hours away from Trieste and 3.5 hours away from Zurich, so our headquarters for the GNSS part. And so it's really in the middle, and so we can really be very quickly in the factory if there is any issue during the production. So now let's move to, let's say, the different solutions we are offering, starting from cellular. So cellular, it's the, let's say, division where I'm coming from. So I'm based in Zgonico, Trieste, as also all our colleagues that will be presenting today. And we are the, I can say, major R&D center for the cellular modules inside U Blox. So Zgonico is really, we can call it, let's say, a small Silicon Valley, because we have U Blox, but let's say we have also one of our competitors, which is really 150 meters away from us. So really, Trieste is a cellular Silicon Valley. And so starting from the cellular, this is, let's say, our product portfolio, what we are offering today. So as you can see, we are offering from the legacy technologies. So this means 2G and 3G modules. I'm not sure how familiar are you with all this, let's say, terminology, but when we are saying legacy technology, this means the old-fashioned 2G and 3G modules. So This means technology that started more than, let's say, 10 years ago. And the first GSM, phones. So this is really the legacy technology, and most of the IoT applications are still using the 2G technology, even if it's not so fancy. Why? Because you don't need, for the majority of the, let's say, IoT applications, especially for the tracking devices, you don't need high bandwidth, you don't need 4G, you don't need the high category, you don't need high speed. You need just to send a few datas that in major cases are location, so this means latitude and longitude. And so 2G and 3G technology is still enough. But network operators are, let's say, slowly shutting down those old technologies. And so customers need to be prepared to switch to the next technologies. And so we have also in our product portfolio the new LPWA technologies. So this means low power wide area, let's say, technologies like NB-IoT, Cat-M1, and Cat-1. Cat-1, it's really a bit on the edge because could be also, let's say, put in, let's say, the higher categories technologies. But let's say this is, let's say, the future, the LPWA, which is basically very similar to LoRa and Sigfox. I'm not sure if you are, let's say, familiar with LoRa and Sigfox. The difference between, let's say, Cat-M1, NB-IoT, and Cat-1, and LoRa and Sigfox is that we are operating in, let's say, the licensed spectrum, while the LoRa Sigfox are operating in the unlicensed spectrum. So this means that you don't need any license to operate on those frequencies. And usually you have frequencies for LoRa and Sigfox that are sub 2.4 gigahertz. So this means 434, 868, and 2.4 gigahertz. So this is today the market of the cellular. And while the high-speed LTE categories like Cat4, Cat6, Cat19, and even 5G, so the new standard, this is really targeting, let's say, automotive application, video surveillancing, and so far and so on. So the applications where you really need high speed and to send a lot of data. I see that you don't have any questions, so please, if you have any questions, just stop me and then I will try to answer. So moving to the short range. So short range for us means Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and vehicle to vehicle. So vehicle to X or vehicle to vehicle. So this means autonomous driving. And also here we are offering, let's say, modules, let's say, with low power consumption, medium to high data rate. So really, whatever a customer needs, let's say, he can, let's say, find in our product portfolio, and he can start to design using the modules very quickly. The third, let's say, and this is the core, let's say, competence of U Blox, because U Blox started as a positioning company in 1997, and then through several acquisitions, U Blox added also the other technologies. As Paula mentioned in the beginning, cellular was added in 2009 when Neon 7, so we were acquired by U Blox. But positioning was really the core technology from U Blox, and we are leader in the market when we are talking about GNSS and positioning products. And here we are offering chips, modules, and SIPs. So SIPs is, let's say, the silicon on chip, basically. It's a miniaturized version of the modules, and we are offering also smart antennas. And we are having, let's say, different, let's say, platforms. So we have the M8, M9, F9, and A9, and this depends on the target application that customers would like to use. So we are starting from wide range of standard precision in consumer, industrial, and automotive. Then we have the high precision navigation, so V2X, ADAS, and the UAVs, and then the highly automated driving, so the autonomous driving. So really we have for different segments, different platforms, and different, let's say, solutions. Last but not least, we have recently added a fourth product center, a fourth group, which is the so-called services. Because we have seen that, let's say, data are gaining value, right? Hardware is becoming more likely a commodity, and let's say the value is switching from the hardware to the data. So now we are starting to promote also our IoT communication as a service, IoT security as a service, and IoT location as a service. So we are investing a lot in security, and Alex will go into details in a couple of minutes. We are partnering with Kudelski, another, let's say, Swiss company that is really the leader in security, because, you know, having so many devices, billion of devices, talking to each other, talking to the cloud every day, every minute, every second, you need to have really a high security, because otherwise hackers can attack your device and they can really, let's say, harm people's life, or they can really stole your data in case of, let's say, insurances. But I would not go deeper because this will be discussed by Alex, and I want to let's say, disclose what Alex will be presenting. So I would like now to concentrate to some, let's say, examples where people are using, where companies are using our technology and our solutions. So one of the latest markets that is really booming in the sense of the smart cities is the security cameras. And we are having basically, let's say, as you can see, 4 different major, let's say, groups. So it's the city and infrastructure monitor, the public event safety, the road control traffic, and the deployable surveillance. So these are really the main, let's say, subgroups of the security cameras. And if you're talking about city surveillance, this is really an exponential growth. So the number of surveillance cameras is increasing exponentially in EMEA, in the US, and in APAC. 170 millions of CCTV IP cameras are already in the field, for example, in China. And an estimated, let's say, 400 million new ones will be installed in the next 3 years. This year, the, let's say, Olympic Games have been, let's say, postponed to the next year due to the pandemic situation because of the coronavirus. But really, the Olympics and Paralympic Games are supposed to further adding to the growth of the surveillance system through various verticals. And the benefits of the cellular-enabled cameras are that those cameras are really ideal for temporary installations and the installation that require rapid and flexible deployments. Surveillance of social sport events, construction sites, and so far and so on. And really, this market is really booming. Then you have the traffic and road safety. And here you have the mobile video monitoring of vehicles. So data verification of car plates, the seamless and low latency connectivity with the Ministry of Transport, and the immediate vehicle insurance. And also the temporary nomadic surveillance. So this means creation of local temporary video surveillance spots of networks. So surveillance of public areas or events, roads, criminal investigation, leveraging embedded positioning technology, and easy and speed of installation. So these are all the benefits of using cellular, in this case, for this kind of applications. And last but not least, smart transportation. So we are talking about road pricing, adaptive traffic lights and sign control, variable speed limits, and as you can see here, for example, we have the dynamic speed signal so that you can control it remotely, and you don't need to wire this speed signal, because in the speed signal you have a cellular model that is connected to the cloud, and so you can control it remotely. Same for the IP cameras. So now I would like also to give you an example of how our products are used. And this is a demo that we have, let's say, developed internally for the trade shows. And we used this demo in the past year quite a lot. So here it's a camera. It's a system of, let's say, smart cameras. And here below, you can see, let's say, the controller part, where you can see maybe it's U Blox GNSS, U Blox Bluetooth, and also a U Blox cellular Tobii L4 modem, which it's, let's say, the core part for the connectivity and for communicating to the cloud. And so we have developed this demo. We have developed also an app where you were seeing live what the cameras were, let's say, recording. So this is an example of how our products can be used. And let's move over. Another market that is really booming in the last years is the healthcare market. And here we have 3 mega groups of 3 domains of connected medical devices in the healthcare. So we are talking about connected hospital, connected patient, and assisted living and wellness monitoring. So here we really have solutions that allow, let's say, patients also to be monitored directly from home remotely. And so this is really a benefit for the society, and also especially for the elder people, because they can stay at home, at their home, and so they are not in the hospital, and so this is a benefit for them and also for the community. And here there is an example. This is another demo. We've done it with Liker. It's, let's say, a startup. Maybe some of you, if you are football fans, you have already recognized the watch, because this watch is used by the referees in the Italian Serie A. And so this is really a special watch, and we have done, let's say, custom variant for the trade shows, because we have added, in this case, also the cellular connectivity. So to this watch, you can connect up to 16 medical sensors. You can locate your patient or your people, and you can also secure and wirelessly connect, let's say, with the cloud-based platform. So, as I said, this is a different variant from what the Italian referees are using, because the Italian referees are using this one to for the signaling of the goal. So once the ball has passed the goal line, the watch starts to vibrate. So this means that the goal, that there was a goal. So in this case, you don't have the false goals that you had in the past. But this one, it's really a different one. And here you can see, let's say, the different, let's say, features that this phone, this specific variant has. So it has a Cat M1, let's say, connectivity. So there is a SATA R5 module inside. It has the Bluetooth connectivity, so the Nina B3, in order to connect the 16 different, let's say, Bluetooth sensors. And it has a U Blox M8 GNSS in order to have live the position of the watch. So here you see the IP, you see the, let's say, the statistics of the mobile network name, frequency band, the network technology, and you can live, let's say, monitor the position from the Liker website. So this is another example, I think fancy example of how our technology can be used. As we said, we are a fabless company, and we are not selling directly to, let's say, the consumers, to the end customers, but we are selling our products to integrators like Liker in this case, or also like in the next case. So this is another market that is really booming in the past years, and it's the so-called UAV, so the unmanned aerial vehicle. So this is the so-called also drones. We have plenty of drones, and the market, as you can see, it's really booming and can be used not just for fun, like let's say, I think a lot of us are using already. You can buy the DJI drones, and also even there you can find U Blox technologies. You can buy the DJI drones for, let's say, recreation, but the market that is booming is really also the industrial market. So for infrastructure, for logistics, for military and defense, for agriculture, for oil and gas. And you can see the CAGR, it's like 32% per year. So the growth, it's really enormous. And also here, U Blox is present. And this is not yet announced. So this is really, you are the first one who is hearing this. So let's say on the 3rd of September, Geoscan launched 2,198 drones into the sky of St. Petersburg. And this is a new world record. The drones basically took off from Petrovsky Stadium in St. Petersburg. this is a minor sport arena, at 9:30 in the evening, and spent 10 minutes in the air. So the figure that you can see on the slide, it was like 600 meters in size, and they were visible from 3 kilometers away. So Geoscan Salute, it's basically a really small quadcopter. You can see it in the bottom right corner of the slide. And it's really designed exclusively for group flights and light shows, and is made on the basis of the U Blox Neo M8P GNSS module. So as you can see, this is really a trend. In this case, it's, let's say, used for the light shows and for consumer applications. But drones are really starting to be used, let's say, in agriculture, in, let's say, also logistics, in order to deliver packages and shipments, and so far and so on. And this is really, really, let's say, a nice market that is booming, and where you can have, let's say, a lot of success, and you can, let's say, also, let's say, play an important role. And in the UAV market, there are plenty of startups that are growing day by day. So it's really something that you as a student, you should start to look for. As also healthcare, as also, let's say, security cameras, as also all the IoT applications. Because with the technology we have today, you can think of any application that could make your life easier and start, let's say, to think about it and start to deploy this product. Thanks to products like we are, let's say, manufacturing and let's say, designing and developing with modules that are shortening the time to market, because you basically take the module, connect it to a battery. Of course, you need some circuitry around, but you basically need to connect to a battery, to an antenna, and that's it. And you have, let's say, your application running very easily, very quickly. And this is also the reason why in the last years, we have so many startups growing that it's unbelievable. Because the technology we have today, it's really fast, and it's enabling all of this. I think I was even, let's say, too long, because I was more than 20 minutes. So I think it's time to switch to the next presenter, Ales. So I would really like to thank you all for your attention. And if you have any question, just, let's say, reach us. I would like to invite you also to have a look at our website, to have a look at our open positions. And as said, if you need any information, just connect with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rado, for your presentation. And now it's time to know more about security with Ales Matijevic. Thank you.
So, yes, so I'll start, as my colleagues, with a nice presentation. So, my name is Ales Matijevic, and I'm working in U Blox in the software development team. I work as an embedded software engineer, and my primary work is I work in the field of security. And as Rado already said, that will be also what I will speak about today. So you can see from my LinkedIn profile that I have more than 20 years of experience, and the most of this experience has been built with U Blox. So if we start to speak about security, we can say that lately we hear a lot about security. So we also, let's say, share interesting and speak about interesting security incidents. Sometimes they are funny, but sometimes they're also serious. So if we take a look of what can a criminal do by exploiting the security of a device, so as already Rado said, they can steal data, steal valuable data, so credit card numbers, playable content. They can modify the exploited device so that it can be used in an unintended way. So it can give you access to payable services for free, or it can be used to attack other victims. So when we take a look of connected devices, we say what types of devices can be really attacked. So the answer is any connected device. So we can also search the devices using the Shodan search engine, which can show us which devices are, let's say, connected and in a way can be attacked. So another point of view of why we hear a lot about security is also this main reason. So the number of connected devices is growing in all aspects of our life. So we have computers, phones, tablets, we have modern transportation devices like e-scooters, e-bikes, and which are connected to the e-toll systems. We have also connected healthcare devices, so blood pressure, blood sugar meters, and others. We have smart meters like gas for water, for electricity. We have smart homes, smart bulbs, smart locks, and also, as Rad already mentioned, the wearable devices which we use for every day. So fitness trackers, smart watches, smart jewelry. So if we take a look at an example of such a device, so for example, the e-toll systems, we all know about the e-scooters. So, and let's say if we take the example, the e-scooter is an e-toll system which provides a rental of such a device for a fee. So this fee is usually paid by the use of a smartphone app. So what can a criminal do by exploiting the security of such a device? So it can allow the use without payment, or it can reduce the payment so that the device, instead of tracking kilometers, can track meters. So it can interact with the system of the e-toll, of an e-toll device. So in a way that it can, for example, lock all the devices and blackmail the service provider. So the service provider should pay to the criminal to unlock the devices. And the most preoccupying thing is that it can interact with the system to cause harm to the user. So if we take an example of such an exploit, we can see that here, as it is shown in this screen, the attacker is using an application on his phone, and there is people who is crossing the road using an e-scooter. And what can happen? The attacker can remotely lock the scooter while a person is in the middle of the road. So this is also a video. You can take a look at it if you have a smartphone with a QR code reader. So you can just take a photo of the QR and look it on your phone. So there are, as I said, there are also other types of devices which get attacked. So if we take an example and another example, like smart meters. So what are smart meters? So smart meters are connected utility meters which are monitoring the electricity, gas, or water usage in your home. So again, what can a criminal do by exploiting such a device? It can interact with the system to create a confusion. So it can confuse the whole system and mix the data. So the operator is not able to gain the data and to create the bill. So it is again blackmailing the provider, the operator, requesting payment to regain true data. It can modify the metering data to reduce or even increase the monthly bill. So it can create economical damage to or the provider, operator, or to the person who is using the gas, or water, or electricity. So if we take another look of another example, we can see that all of the connected devices can also be used in botnet attacks. So what is a botnet? So botnet is a set of exploited devices which is used as a component for other exploits, for other, let's say, security attacks. So if you imagine, we all have wireless routers. So if there is a malware infection on your router could do a denial of service attack. It could be used to, I don't know, just as a simple example, to give likes to some photo you sent. So your device gets attacked and gets used by some criminal, or can be sold to other criminals and used for additional attacks. So now we have seen what are the problems of security, what are the issues. This is really a hard problem, and now we'll take a look at how we at U Blox approach to this. So our approach is starting by addressing the security with the general security concepts. So what is the most important security concept? It is the authentication. So the authentication means we need to prove our identity. So how can an identity of a device or of a person or of any system be done? So there are three factors. So the mostly used factors is something only the device or only you know. So that's the old paradigm of a username and password. Something that only you have, your credit card, your phone number, your ID card. Something only you are, so something biometric, so your fingerprint, your retina. So these are the authentication factors. So now we have authenticated the device, authenticated the person, we know who this person is. Then when this person or this device communicates with the system, it is sending data. So the data needs to be confidential. So with the confidentiality, we make sure that only the ones who are intended to use the data can really use it, can see it, and can read it. The other point of the data is the integrity. So when we are talking about integrity, we need to make sure that the data is authentic, so that it has not been changed while it has been transferred from one party to another. And the third concept is the authorization. So authorization is used to configure which authenticated, so the parties from the first step, from the first concept, can use the confidential, so the confidential data from the second step, and which system functionalities can be used. So this is a configuration scheme where we can say that a person is authorized to use the function of the system. So as we have seen in the example of the e-scooter, the criminal was really using a function which he should not use. So authorization would help us with this attack. So how do we do this? How do we integrate this from the ground up? So what do we do in U Blox? So in U Blox, we provision trust. So that means that we have a root of trust, which is presented as an immutable chip ID, and a hardware-based root of trust, which provide the fundamental security and unique device identity. So by this, we have created an authenticated device, so a device which we know who is, so we know the identity of this device. Then we use this authentication to leverage trust. So that means that we derive the trust keys. It means that we have a way to know that this device is using a specific set of keys, and this is then integrated in the libraries, which allow us to connect securely to the cloud or to some server. And when we have this leverage, we can go and guarantee trust. So we start to use the keys to secure any function, and with this we ensure the authenticity, integrity, and confidentiality to maintain the control of the device and also of the data. So if we look from this point on, if we look at the components, so we can say we are addressing the security by addressing the device security, the data security, and access management. So the device security, when we are talking about device security, we are talking about unique identity, about secure boot, and secure updates. When we are talking about data security, we are again talking about the confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity. And when we're talking about access management, we're talking about who has access to the data and to the functions. So these are managed by the device policies, the data policies, and the feature authorizations. So what is the device security? So we need to protect the integrity of the device. When we are protecting the integrity of the device, it means that we are protecting the device from the ground. So this means that we need to maintain the trust in the device. We do that by the secure boot, which means that only the software which is signed can run on the device. So a criminal is not able to run any software that was not produced by the producer on this device. Then we need to also provide secure updates and secure interfaces. And this needs to be integrated to maintain the device integrity over the entire life cycle of the device. The second thing is when we talk about device security is remote decommissioning. So that means that when we know that the device has been compromised, we can lock it down and quarantine it. So we know that this device cannot be anymore used in the system, and so it does not present a security risk in the system. And then we have the third device security concept, which is the anti-cloning. So if a device is cloned, it can be used by two different users, and that means that it can provide a security issue. So the device security is, as I already mentioned, maintained through secure boot, remote decommissioning, and the detection of cloning. If we take a look at the data security, so when we are talking about data security, we are really talking about protecting the data at rest, so the data which is on the device or on the cloud, and the data which is in transit. So what do we need to do? We need to encrypt. So we need to encrypt on the local device with a secure file storage, or with encrypting the content in the RAM of the device. And then we need to do an end-to-end encryption of the data in transit. When we do this, we have, let's say, provided the security of the whole system. So what is the biggest problem here? We need to be efficient, because we don't have a lot of resources on the device. The cloud is not a problem because the servers can be added. There are orchestrations. We can add resources, but the devices need to use efficient and secure protocols and communications. The last point which we will address is the access management. So when we are talking about access management, we know that we have covered the device security and data security. So in this point, we know that the device is secured, that the data is secured, and now we can start to manage, to configure the access. So how do we do this? First, we need to do onboarding. So the first thing that we need to do is to collect and to know all the devices which are in the system. So we do this with an out-of-box solution, which is using zero-touch provisioning to be used on popular IoT clouds and other platforms, like we are talking here about Microsoft Azure, AWS, and others. And by this, we start to do the control access. So we can allow only an authenticated access to the features and to the devices. So here we are trying to manage the access, manage the usage, and do all the security features which are needed. So we can, with this, let's say, management, with access management, we can decommission a device. We can also start to update the devices, to deliver security fixes, and by this we cover the whole, let's say, the whole security aspect as one. We also need to manage the ownership of the devices. So when a device gets sold or gets used in another, let's say, system, this is also managed by this trusted environment. So that's a quick, let's say, a quick introduction, a quick overview of the security. So if we take a summary, if we try to look at the summary, what do we do at U Blox? So at U Blox, we are trying to constantly develop and provide out-of-box end-to-end IoT security. We're trying to keep the data secure because there are, as Rado already explained, there are many ways to profit from the devices and from the data. We're trying to keep the security at the highest level so that the security breaches which could directly impact the safety are not possible. We know that the security must start from the ground up with secure boot, root of trust, and all the concepts which have been shown. And we know that the security approach must be holistic. So it needs to start from the ground up. It needs to cover the data security, the device security, and also the access management. So I think that with this summary, we covered the security aspect quite well. So now I will thank you for your attention, and I will pass on to Elisabetta. Thank you.
Thank you, Aleš, for the interesting speech. And let me introduce the hardware department through Regi Jaupi. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Elisabetta. Okay, so let me go back to the first slide here. So I hope you can hear me well. I am Regi Jaupi, and I am part of the hardware team at U Blox. I've been working with U Blox for 4 years now, and I started working right after my graduation of the master's degree here at the University of Trieste in electronics and telecommunications. I wanted to give a quick overview of the R&D hardware team with the main focus on the typical activities in which we are involved at U Blox. So the R&D team is mainly divided, so the hardware R&D team is mainly divided into 2 separate groups. We have the radio frequency development team and the baseband development team. As we will see also later on, the radio frequency team is mainly responsible for the testing and characterization of the antenna interface, so of the radio transmitter and receiver of the modules. While on the other hand, the baseband development team is responsible of testing the digital interfaces, the power supplies, the current consumptions, the thermal behavior of the module, and so on. In total, we are 22 people, more or less equally distributed between the 2 teams. Then I wanted to give a quick overview of a typical design flow of a new product. So by focusing mainly on the aspect of the hardware team, so where the hardware is involved, let's say. So normally a new product is being defined by a set of requirements and of features that normally come from marketing and from project management team. And then we as R&D are in close contact with the platform vendor that, as we will see later on, can be Intel, Qualcomm, or even U Blox, since we have our own chipsets now available. At this initial stage, we normally rely on reference designs, on application notes, on past experience on previous products, in order to perform the so-called bring up of the new module, of the new PCB. Once the new products or the new prototypes, the first samples are available, we start testing both on the RF side and on the baseband side. Normally the overall testing lasts several months, and during these tests we see if the performances of the modules are as expected. And normally issues can be resolved via software intervention, via components change, but unfortunately sometimes it is also necessary to perform respins of the PCB and correct the eventual issues at the PCB level. Once the hardware and the software are consolidated enough, the product goes into certification, and only when a product is being certified, it can actually be produced and sent to the customers. So this is a very simplistic view of a typical life cycle of a product. If we check more closely the design flow from a hardware point of view, we have these main steps. So we first start by working into the electronics CAD environment. Then we generate the documentation that is needed for production. And then as soon as the samples are available, we start testing. And at last, we have the prototype distribution to the customers. So one of the most important parts is the first part, so the Cadence, so the CAD development part. We use Cadence as our CAD environment. And initially, we update our internal libraries in case there are missing components of the new platform that is being used. Then there is the schematics development, and in the end, there is the PCB routing, which is one of the most delicate steps. And as we will see later on, at this phase, it is very important to also consider doing simulations of different kinds. Then the documentation is needed, such as generation of Gerber files, of bill of materials, of eventual software tools for testing in production. And then at last, we test the products as soon as they are available. A typical cellular module in the inside looks something like this. I don't know if you can see my cursor, I believe not. But anyway, it is quite easy to spot the principal building blocks of a typical product. So as you may see, the biggest chip, which is located at the top left, is the baseband chipset. In here, we have a product based on the Intel platform. Then there is the memory, which is located at the top left. Normally, the external memories are so-called MCP, multi-chip packages, that contain inside both the RAM part, which is normally a low-power RAM memory, and also a flash part that stores the actual code for the module. Then at the center, the black chip is the power management unit, which is responsible for providing all the power to the product. Then we have the RF transceiver at the top, and then the PA at the bottom right with several RF filters, and then a lot of passive components. As you may see, there is high density of components in a typical product, and which is quite small, as you can also see from the dimensions. And this is a Toby form factor, which is the biggest cellular product in terms of size that we have. So in order to perform a correct routing of such kind of products, as you may imagine, it is needed to perform the routing into several layers of PCB. Normally, we use from 6 up to even 10 layers of PCB routing in order to have this kind of density into the devices. So as I mentioned before, we have platforms, we have products that are based on different platforms, such as Intel platform, Marvell, Qualcomm. We now have also our internal products, so U Blox modules based on U Blox cellular chipset, and also RDA platforms. So the main focus in testing and in correctly designing a module is to satisfy the technical requirements that are established by, in particular, the 3GPP partnership standards. So there is a list of tests that are performed, in particular from the RF test group, that allow to or make sure that we are compliant with this kind of requirements. These tests then give us the confidence to be able to pass then the certifications that will later on allow to actually commercialize the product. As you may know, in order to be able to use on field a telecommunications device, such as a cellular module, it is required, it is mandatory to have certifications based also on the geographical area and also on the network operator that is being used. Actually, there is a dedicated team in U Blox which is the certification team. So more on the testing side, we have on the RF testing side, we have a proprietary test system which is based on Visual Basic scripts that are fully developed in-house. This is a semi-automatic testing system. As you can see in the right image, this is one of the 2G and 3G test setups. And the focus here is to have some statistics on the behavior of the antenna and of the radio transmitter and receiver for several samples of each product type. These kind of tests allow to perform component tuning and eventually see if there is the case for PCB rerouting or not. And last but not least, these kind of tests allow to have some reporting in-house that is also very valuable in the future. The RF tests in particular are testing a lot of 3GPP test cases in a wide range of operation modes. So all the operation voltage range, temperature range, all the bands supported by the product, and so on. So typically the RF tests in particular lasts quite a long time, so even several months. This is a typical RF test plan, so the format that we use to report our internal testing. And for each element, there are more details on the exact test that has been performed. Here I just took 3 examples of transmitter testing, such as a spectrum emission mask, inner loop power control, and spectrum to modulation. These are all characterizations of the radio transmitter as specified by the 3GPP requirements. Here there is an analog overview also of the LTE 4G testing. In the right image you can see the actual test setup, and in the left there is a schematics that shows how the different equipment is connected in the image at the right side. So what is important to notice is that in each one of these test setups there is the so-called call box, which is a simulator of a cell, of a base station, which allows to simulate a real usage of the module on field. Here there are some more examples on the LTE testing, specific tests such as the in-band emission and the RF power, the output power, with the simultaneous measurement of the current consumption. So more on the current consumption, we will see now that I'm talking about the baseband test system. So in the baseband side, we mainly focus on the correct power delivery on the module. Then we focus on the digital interfaces, so the testing of all interfaces such as UART interface, SPI, USB, etc. Overall power management control, current consumption, and also thermal behavior of the product. In an analog way to the RF test plan, also the baseband tests are reported in a specific document. And some of the most important tests that are reported are the baseband supply measurements. So all the different supplies, the internal supplies that are generated by the power management unit are being measured in different operating modes of the module in order to make sure that the power is always delivered as expected. Because otherwise, the failures that are due to incorrect powering of the devices into a module are very hard to spot at an advanced state of the product. So this is one of the first and most important measurements to do. Then there are the interface checkings. So in particular, the timings of the memories are very critical. Several products have external memories inside, and it is very important to actually check that the routing is done properly and that the timing are being respected as specified by the standards. And last but not least, the current consumption monitoring. So on the current consumption monitoring, there are two important aspects. So on the one hand, we have products that are designed to have very low current consumption. These are products that are mainly created to be used in IoT use cases in battery supplied applications. So in these measurements, we try to focus on identifying possible leakage sources and identifying possible subsystems of the module in which any voltage rail is maybe turned on unnecessarily. So we really try to reduce as much as possible the current consumption. And we are in the range of even microampere range of current consumption in deep sleep states. And on the other hand, on the high-end products, we have very high current consumptions because these products allow to reach also very high data rates and very high bandwidth in terms of connectivity. This is, for example, the case of the module that I showed before, the TOBL4, which is a category 6 module. In this particular case, monitoring the current consumption is very important because it may have important thermal effects. So high current consumption may provoke temperature increases into delicate areas of the module, such as, for example, the memory, and may cause memory corruptions or other problems that are hard to track. On the equipment side, some typical equipment that is normally used in hardware, but in particular in the baseband team, are the oscilloscopes, JTAG debuggers, logic state analyzers, thermal camera, and so on. What is important to notice is that we have a dedicated room for a rework station, so we are able to solder and desolder not only modules, but also small components such as chips, filters, and so on. This is very handy and very important also for debugging purposes. We also have several USB microscopes that are very useful for soldering very small components. And one very important topic is also the tools, also software tools that we normally use in order to support the initial design of the products. We have a quite complete family of software tools based on ANSYS that allow to perform signal integrity simulations, power integrity simulations, and also develop thermal models. So on the signal integrity side, we mainly focus on the traces that require controlled impedance, such as the 50 ohm traces, the USB lines, and the internal memory high-speed interfaces. Then after so the simulations are done at PCB routing level, and then once the product is ready, we actually perform the measurements in order to make sure that the routing is as expected. In particular, I wanted to stress out that for the memory interface, that is an internal interface, this kind of check is quite complicated because the lines are not exposed of the module. This is why we also work in parallel when new products are being developed, also on these special kind of boards that you can see at the right-hand side. That is the so-called wing board. This board is an adapter board with the module incorporated, and this allows us to also route out the internal signals, such as the DDR, the RAM signals, out of this adapter board. And this actually allows us to measure the memory timings in particular. Then on the power integrity simulations, this is very important because allows to perform a check on the expected voltage drop, both in DC and AC impedance. So we normally specify a source, which is normally from the power management unit, and then the load, which can be, for example, the core voltage of the baseband chip or any other load device. And this kind of simulations shows what kind of impedance we see in the current PCB version. And the output from these simulations allows to then tune the routing at PCB level. And then on the thermal model side, we are able also to check the temperature impact of let's say, the transmission power from the RFPA, of the power amplifier. So for each watt of power amplifier output, we can check which is the effect in temperature increase on other specific components, such as the memory or the baseband chipset. Here you can see several simulations that are done in different use cases. So module with the shield, module without the shield, and then the most realistic simulation at the bottom right side, which is a module with the shield on an application board, as will be the case of a customer, for example. And here we have also the confrontation of a simulation with the measurement of a thermal effect in a specific module. Then last but not least, I wanted also to mention that, of course, the modules are the main focus for the hardware team, but we are also closely involved with the support that is given also in the production. As Rado mentioned before, we are a fabless company. We don't own the factory that produces the company. We rely on a third-party company, which is called Flex. But we also support the modules manufacturing, in particular the steps of flashing and testing, also on a hardware perspective. So regarding the flashing part, which is the process in which the software is uploaded into the memory of the module, we have developed in-house a so-called flashing board, which is able to flash in parallel up to 24 different modules. And then after the flashing is done, the modules are put into the so-called inline testing. And all of the hardware that you can see into these images expect from the mechanics. So the image that you can see in the right, the hardware controller board and also the socket board on top are all developed in-house by U Blox. So bottom line is that, of course, the module is the protagonist and is the main focus for the hardware team. But we are also involved with a wide range of other board developments that support the module testing, the module qualification, and also, as I showed now, the module production. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Regi. There are any questions for my colleagues? You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I was muted. I muted my
Okay.
Jabra.
So we have a few minutes for some question or curiosity we can available.
I've seen that some participants left. Maybe they were not interested into the hardware part of the activity. If there is any questions, HR side or technical side, we are here to answer to you. And I have already entered into contact with a couple of you via LinkedIn, and you can write there if there are any questions in the future too. And
Elizabeth, there was a question regarding if we need a material engineer too. If we need material engineers also.
Okay, let me check. Okay, see. I see. All our vacancies are on the website. Material engineers we usually have in the quality department. So you can send us the curriculum vitae and check if we have already vacancies on the website. All the positions for all the countries are in the career page, and we are available for any further details. So please, you can send. So if we don't have any question, we can leave you with a video, and we hope our presentation will be useful for you for your career. And let's say, please write us on LinkedIn or on the website, and we are all available for your question and for any answer do you need. Thank you for the attention, and see you in the next.